Hello, it's Friday, April the 3rd. Welcome to episode 67 of What's Happening in Myanmar, a show from the Frontier Myanmar podcast family. I'm your host, Nick Dunlop, Frontier's feature editor. As you heard last week, I'm taking over from Luke Corbin, and we are changing the format. Instead of a fortnightly podcast, we'll be bringing you a shorter weekly roundup of stories from Myanmar. These changes are because Frontier finds itself in an increasingly difficult financial position. Before we begin, an appeal. After more than 10 years of award-winning journalism, we are in a funding crisis. The grants that once supported 2/3 of Frontier's operations are no longer available. Despite this, our journalists continue their difficult and dangerous work, but with decreasing resources. It is no exaggeration to say that Frontier is fighting for its survival. Please encourage friends and colleagues to join Frontier so we can continue producing our trademark features, in-depth investigations, and on-the-ground reporting. By joining Frontier, you'll be supporting us to tell the stories that matter and cut through the noise to reveal what's really happening in Myanmar. Please click the link to join us in the podcast show notes. This week in Myanmar, political transitions, fuel shortages dominated the headlines. Here's a roundup of some of the major developments this week from March 30th to April the 3rd, 2026. We begin with today's news with Myanmar's parliament formally electing Min Aung Hlaing as president, with the regime's Prime Minister Nyo So and the Union Solidarity and Development Party's chair of Kenyan State Nan Nyinyi as vice presidents. This completed the junta's transition to an ostensibly civilian government dominated by military proxies. On Monday, March 30th, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing stepped down as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. He was replaced by General Ye Win U, a former military intelligence chief and known loyalist, while other senior military posts also saw changes. Parliament began selecting the president and 2 vice presidents under the 2008 constitution. Min Aung Hlaing, nominated by the lower house, had been widely expected to assume the presidency, signalling a shift towards a quasi-civilian government while maintaining military influence. On Armed Forces Day, he defended the 2021 coup, saying 43 constitutional amendments had been agreed with ethnic armed groups, without providing any details. Now to the fuel crisis, ignited by Israel and the US's war on Iran, which has hit the country hard. On March 29th, the regime announced it suspended the licenses of 3 fuel stations. Authorities said the stations had been selling fuel without scanning wheel tax barcodes issued to all vehicles. The system was introduced to track purchases after a new fuel rationing system began. The junta said it arrested a resident of Yangon's Dagon Sekan township for hoarding petrol and accused taxi drivers of engaging in an illegal act by taking advantage of the new system. Fuel rationing restriction sales based on engine capacity was adopted in Bago and Mandalay regions' Pin U Luin townships and along highways connecting Yangon with Mandalay. The junta claimed that purchases by motorbikes and tuk-tuks declined from nearly 190,000 on Wednesday to 165,000 on Saturday, while car purchases dropped by 38,000. Meanwhile, fuel prices are soaring on the black market. Kit Media reports 1 litre of RON 92-octane petrol and diesel are sold at 12,000 and 15,000 kyats, respectively, in Yangon. A fuel station owner told the outlet, "Importers don't supply small stations like us with much quantity. The junta is also blaming us for selling fuel only to a few cars." Travel disruptions are also mounting ahead of Thinjan, the Myanmar New Year. Some bus lines have suspended advanced ticket sales, citing the fuel crisis. Tickets from Yangon to Chongta and Wei Song beaches now cost at least 50,000 kyats, double pre-war prices. Airfares have reportedly doubled or tripled for domestic flights, though the Ministry of Transport says routes resumed on March 25th. Fuel prices in Yangon on Friday rose sharply. Diesel to 5,450 kyats, premium diesel to 6,085 kyats, 92 RON petrol to 4,450 kyats, and RON 95 petrol to 4,975 kyats. Farmers are also struggling. In Mon State's Pong Township, crops are drying out as a result of fuel scarcity. A farmer said, "Rationing rules only allow us to purchase 10,000 kyats worth of fuel a day, or about 2 litres, which only allows water pumps to run for around an hour." In Tanintari region's Yebu Township, residents told the Waywatch that fuel shortages have halted vegetable farming. A local said, "Some farmers resorted to solar power, but others who could not afford fuel are forced to leave their cultivated lands unattended." The junta held a meeting on April the 1st to address the crisis, with Min Aung Hlaing instructing officials it is necessary to prioritise the use of railways for transporting goods to prevent inflation and to expand freight train services. He also called for affordable distribution of diesel fuel and proposed exchanging older vehicles for electric import permits. The Finance Ministry announced tax breaks for importers of high-speed diesel and exemptions on imported fertilizers, aiming to stabilize and lower the overall cost of living. On resistance movements, 6 groups announced the Steering Council for the emergence of a federal democratic union aimed at advancing the revolution and forming a transitional government. The council said it was established to represent the people, coordinating political and military matters. "We are committed to protecting and promoting the diverse identities of all ethnic nationalities residing within member states and units of the Union, and to firmly build a new federal democratic union composed of states that fully guarantee equality among nationalities and the right to self-determination." The SCEF also committed to defeating the regime and abolishing the 2008 constitution. It plans to draft a new federal constitution ensuring all armed forces operate under civilian command, though powerful groups like the Arakan Army are not members. Turning now to conscription, the PDF Zoland forcibly recruited 50 people in Chin's Tidum Township, including minors. Parents of a 13-year-old tried to negotiate release but were refused. Meanwhile, the Chinland Defence Force Calais Kabor Gangor called on the public to provide conscripts, noting that 92 of its members have been killed since the coup. Bangladesh's Foreign Minister Khalilur Rahman told Parliament that his government shared data on 829,000 refugees with regime authorities to facilitate repatriation. The regime confirmed the identities of 354,000, including 253,000 as persons previously residing in Myanmar. Rahman said, "Given the current security situation, conditions are not yet conducive for the safe return of refugees. Safe, voluntary and dignified repatriation remains the only solution," he said. In the United States, a medical examiner ruled the death of Rohingya refugee Nurul Amin Shah Alam a homicide. His body was found in the city of Buffalo on February the 24th, Reuters reports. He was nearly blind and did not speak English, but he was found on the street in freezing temperatures after U.S. Border Patrol agents dropped him at a coffee shop in Buffalo following his release from county jail on February the 19th. Attorney General Letitia James said, "Mr. Shah Alam fled genocide to build a life in this country. Instead, he was abandoned and left to suffer alone in his final hours." His son told The Guardian, "When I got the call from the medical examiner, my body went into shock. I am still depressed." And that's the week in Myanmar. Leadership changes, a deepening fuel crisis, resistance movements, conscript issues, and the ongoing Rohingya crisis. Stay tuned for continued updates on these critical stories. We will bring you a roundup of all stories making the headlines next and every Friday going forward.